Hi, welcome to a second of context with Dr. Rosner. Perhaps many of you are engaging in a conversation around the First Amendment right now. If so, you'll understand that the First Amendment guarantees us to the right of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom to assemble, and freedom to petition. Those are five really important rights that our founding fathers, individuals like Thomas Jefferson, fought for to be included in our Bill of Rights, right? And that's rooted in the value that Thomas Jefferson and others saw in our newspapers. Here's a bit of evidence of his perspective around the value of newspapers. The basis of our government being the opinion of the people, the very first object should be to keep that right. And were it left for me to decide whether we should have government without newspapers or newspapers without a government, I should not hesitate for a moment to prefer the latter. So that's a testament to Thomas Jefferson's dedication to the importance of newspapers within American culture and the importance of the First Amendment. But it's really important to note that even though our founding fathers, individuals like George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison espoused the importance of the First Amendment, during times of conflict, the first time of conflict, they immediately constrained our rights with regards to the First Amendment, okay? So the context here is 1798 and an impending war with France, and Congress immediately approves the first Alien and Sedition Act. Here's the justification for that. The United States was threatened with actual invasion and had then within the bosom of the country thousands of aliens who we doubt not were ready to cooperate in any external attack. So in this moment of impending conflict, what happens? Our rights are constrained. So first of all, we get the Alien Acts, so the Naturalization Act, the Alien Act, and the Alien Enemies Act. And essentially it changes the standards for citizenship in this country. So the Naturalization Act, it moves that you have to have 14 years of residence instead of 5. The Alien Act says that the president has the authority to deport any alien that he views as dangerous to the peace and safety of the U.S. No trial or evidence is required. There is no defense. The Alien Enemies Act says that the president, in case of war, may deport aliens of the enemy country or impose severe restraints upon them. So essentially what this did is it created unilateral power for the president to determine who was an enemy of this country. And ultimately, when read in relation to the Sedition Act, it gave us the context that had preceded it. So suddenly, this notion of the greater the truth, the greater the libel that had existed under the British Crown was kind of asserted over the people of this country. So the government could determine that it was illegal for any person to write or publish any false, scandalous, malicious writing against the government. Who determines that? The people in the position of power in this country. So the Congress in either house or the president. So they could determine that just because there was something that you were saying that they didn't like, that suddenly that was seditious libel and that you were going to jail. Now, there was a great deal of debate around this in Congress, and ultimately, we get the precedent for our understanding of libel today. But I want you to see this. It doesn't come during Adams' tenure as president. And it's not something that Jefferson does away with immediately when he comes into the presidency. Instead, it takes a couple of years for him to rid our country of the Sedition Act, and it's largely based in this court ruling. In 1803, under Jefferson's administration, Harry Croswell, editor of the Federalist Wasp, was charged with seditious libel in New York. Croswell wrote that Jefferson paid a newspaper publisher to write nasty things about Washington. That's true. That's a fact. That's something that we go over in the media history course that I teach. Jefferson did pay someone, Philip Freneau, to publish nasty things about Washington because Washington was a Federalist and Jefferson was an anti-Federalist. And it was this ideological partisan moment in which kind of became a highly divisive, charged moment when we were tossing around assertions about the other politician. Sound familiar? To me, it sounds a lot like this particular moment, right? This particularly partisan, divisive moment. But here's the thing. Alexander Hamilton's defense, the truth, came through. Though Croswell was convicted of seditious libel, later that year, New York's legislature responded with a libel act, which established truth as a defense for libel and gave the jury the power to decide the law and the fact of a case. So even though, so a few things, a few takeaway points that you should really keep in mind. In the United States, in our history, during moments of conflict, both domestic and international or abroad, what we see is that our First Amendment rights are often constrained. But what often happens is that there's a loud protest against that constraint, right? So against our rights being taken away. That certainly happened in 1803 with the case of Harry Croswell. And here's the thing, we've got to continue to push for those rights to make sure that they're never taken away. Because the one truth that we've seen through our country's history is our First Amendment rights are often impeded during times of conflict. That's a lesson that you should remember. That's important. Second of context for you. Thank you.